Let's see, we are live on Periscope, YouTube, hopefully in just 1 minute. We have a very busy day, busy news day. All right, live on YouTube, live on Periscope. Hope everybody's having a lovely day. It is Wednesday, April 25th. I don't even know. I have like 6 or 7 stories I want to get to, but we'll see. We'll see how many I get to. So before getting to any of the stories, do you notice anything different today besides my disheveled beard and Jufro? Do you notice anything different in the screen? Let me know in the chat and press the share button. Let me know if you notice anything different about the presentation today. The sign, James Michael. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Totally kidding. I don't even know what you do. Now, I'd like to take credit. I'd like to take credit for the sign, but the sign was not mine. Oh, now I want to sing. I saw the sign and it opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Anyway, big Ace of Base fan. But my business partner, Jen, who's been up here, we've been doing some business stuff, trying to get this thing off the ground. She made it. I think it's a lot more attractive than the sign I made. But we might just work on signs and go to arts and crafts class in my apartment and just keep making new signs. So we added a smiley face this time, because if you're going to fund me, I'm going to smile. Paul says, I'm here supporting Jordan. Loyalty to honesty. Preach, Paul. Thank you very much. Another thing to add is, a lot of you might not know, but I'm opening up the floor. I'm opening up this YouTube channel to other fine reporters, commentators. So Teresa Joy was just on live before me. Some days she's going live so I could take a break, because I have a lot of reporting to do, and that involves research and digging through documents and all that stuff. So Teresa was just on before me. I think she's fantastic. She's vibrant, she's passionate, she's smart, and she's aggressive. She's from Canada, actually. She lives in Canada, but she also kind of does a lot of reporting in Buffalo, too. So Teresa was on before me. You'll be able to see her videos up on demand soon. Also, here we go. Stream buffering. Yeah. So also, we had a lot of buffering issues yesterday. Are you on the Wi-Fi? Let me know if you can see me. Hold on. God damn it. Hold on, folks. Hold on. It's not buffering. No buffering at all. All right, never mind. Then it was just on my end. So basically, the media today, I mean, I criticize the media pretty damn often, as you notice. And press the share button. Let's get this out to more people. And before I do the first video, I got ADD all over the place. Before I do the first video, I just want to give you an update where we're at. So Patreon, we're at 346 patrons for my new reporting Patreon, almost hitting 2,000 a month. And like I've always said, this money is not going for me to have dinner. We are saving this money, we're building it up so we have enough money to hire other reporters, hire a camera person, and get out in the field with a bit of a travel budget. So thank you to the 346 that have subscribed. You can subscribe as low as $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, and higher. Different levels of subscription will get you different levels of content. We have diaries up that give you behind the scenes. We have podcasts up from me. We're going to be doing monthly video calls with our patrons and many other things. So definitely check it out if you haven't. It's all in an effort to launch this bad boy, status coup, because we need a coup d'etat of the status quo, and I'm talking about a journalistic coup d'etat. So thanks to everyone who has been subscribing to the Patreon. If you haven't, I hope you'll check it out and consider subscribing. I am not interested in only reporting from my apartment. I am interested in launching a media network. How much per month to actually touch Jordan? Oh, boy. I'm not for sale at the moment. Gee. But nice question. No money for touching me. Thank you very much. But on a more serious topic, I have a lot of stories to get to today, but I think we need to start where the corporate media fails. I watched the White House press secretary, the annual, the daily briefing, and the media asked such important questions like, what does President Trump think of Kanye West expressing support? But the media failed to ask a question that's kind of relevant today. I don't know, Jen. What do you think? Is there something going on today that should be in the media but isn't getting covered on CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times? Anything?
I can think of one thing.
Jen says, I can think of one thing. And she doesn't want to come on camera for some reason. I don't know. So start the campaign. Today is the 4-year anniversary of the disastrous switch from the Detroit water system to the Flint River in Flint. April 25th, 2014 was the day that they switched from Detroit's water system to the Flint, toxic Flint River. I don't need to repeat how the lead got into the water. I have reported on this over and over. So 4 years later, an American city, contrary to the governor of Michigan's bullshit declarations, who says the water is restored, contrary to EPA-funded scientists who say the water is normal now. Well, I've been posting on my Twitter, and I've been showing you videos of residents showing their tap water coming out brown or foamy. That's happening in Flint, Michigan today, 4 years later. I'm working on a piece, as I've told you, that hopefully will be published soon that will expose this. And expose, frankly, cooked up science being used to declare crisis over and move on. So what you have here is an American city being poisoned, but it's been normalized. Have you heard on CNN or the New York Times or the Washington Post anything about Flint recently other than regurgitating what the EPA or Governor Snyder tells you? And today, American journalists asked the press secretary, what do you think? What does President Trump think about Kanye West? Liking his policies or something? Next, they're going to ask, hey, does President Trump, think Kim has a nice ass? Too much?
Too much.
Too much. Excuse me, TMI. But let me tell you what's going on. What's going on? So, on the 4-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis, which I've had CNN on and MSNBC in rotation because I like to punish myself, not a damn segment about the Flint water crisis or the 4-year anniversary. And press the share button. Because apparently YouTube doesn't particularly like to always notify subscribers when the channels that they've subscribed to are live. Why would that be? I don't hear CNN people or legacy establishment media having these problems, but THC Gamer, TYT doesn't talk about water safety since you left. Isn't that interesting? I digress. Now, 4-year anniversary, it's not getting any coverage in the media. Let me tell you what Congressman Keith Ellison is proposing on the 4-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis. I think it's fantastic. Here we go. Congressman Keith Ellison introduces bill to guarantee safe drinking water on the Flint anniversary. Bill would invest $35 billion each year in water infrastructure and clean water programs. Congressman Keith Ellison and Congressman Ro Khanna today introduced the Water Affordability, Transparency, Equity, and Reliability Act of 2018. It's a mouthful, which would provide clean and safe drinking water to millions of people while creating nearly 1 million jobs. Quote, today marks the 4-year anniversary of the crisis in Flint, Michigan, but the reality is water infrastructure around the country has been neglected for decades, said Ellison. Low-income communities and communities of color can't be expected to thrive when they lack basic necessities like water. We are one of the richest nations in the world. It is time to guarantee clean water as a right for all. Well, according to Nestle, CEO years ago, clean water wasn't a right. He walked that shit back real quick after he was attacked online. Rokana says 14 million U.S. households are struggling to pay for water that too often isn't even safe to drink. Yeah, residents of Flint can attest to that because they pay the highest water bill in the USA for brown water, water that is foamy, water that smells toxic and tastes toxic. Kana went on to say decades of federal underinvestment has left many communities, particularly low-income and minority neighborhoods, with leaky and contaminated water systems. It's past time that we ensure everyone in this country has access to the most basic human need, clean drinking water. The executive director of the National Advocacy Organization, Food and Water Watch, said, quote, a waning federal commitment to public water infrastructure in recent decades has created a growing water crisis in our country, and our most vulnerable communities are taking the brunt of this disinvestment, said Winoa Howder. This legislation would reverse this trend and ensure affordable, clean water for future generations while creating good jobs. As water rates hit astronomical highs for many American communities, we commend Congressman Ellison and Congressman Kana for their leadership to guarantee clean water for all. I recommend them. I applaud them too, but I have to slightly add an amendment to their bill. I'm not a congressperson or a politician. I just play one on YouTube. So what I will say, 35 billion, not going to be enough. So I applaud their aggressiveness in tackling the issue, but 35 billion is not even going to cover, I mean, 1/4 of the infrastructure that needs changing in this country. So, you know, it's a start. It's a start, but we need a lot more. I mean, it's not just Flint where the water is a danger. And by the way, it's not just lead that is threatening water quality in this country. You know what? I just did a video yesterday. I'm going to redo it probably because there was a lot of video buffering issues on my stream yesterday. But you have landfills with nuclear waste that has been dumped at these landfills. One is in St. Louis area. It's called the Westlake Landfill. Bill Gates is the majority shareholder, by the way, in the company that owns that landfill. You have nuclear waste, uranium specifically, that is underneath the ground at these landfills. And guess what? Most of these landfills don't have the proper sealing. So groundwater is being contaminated at many, many landfills around the country. You have U.S. Army bases that we're now seeing groundwater contamination near the Army bases because the Army bases have a lot of chemicals and waste on premises that are leaking into local groundwaters. I mean, I could go on and on. I cover this quite a lot. Art just said, I live in Chicago. I wake up with real bad headaches some days. My dog had a tumor every 2 years for 6 years, had 5 tumors grow last year. Well, guess what? Guess what, Art? Teresa just did a video. Teresa just did a video yesterday. Again, if you're coming to this late, Teresa Joy has been contributing on this channel. She's an independent reporter. She's going to be going live a couple days a week. Teresa just did a video. In the homes tested in Chicago recently, they found 70% of the homes tested in Chicago, not East Chicago, Chicago, Illinois, had elevated levels of lead. Not to mention East Chicago, Indiana, where I was on the ground 6 times, which has a lead contamination epidemic. Not just lead, but arsenic. So on today, the 4-year anniversary of Flint, let's remember it's happening everywhere. And frankly, it could be happening in your neck of the woods. And you frankly don't know because your local politicians are not doing their jobs. And the state environmental agencies are not doing their jobs. You seeing any complaints of buffering?
No.
Okay. And the EPA, by the way, there's this notion that all of a sudden the EPA's got so horrific under President Trump. I think Scott Pruitt is a danger, and I have a story on him that I'm going to talk about later. But the EPA has been awful for years, pre-Trump. I have seen in my reporting in Flint, I have seen in my reporting in East Chicago, I've seen in my reporting in North Carolina, there's a lot of questionable, cooked up science being used to declare water safe. in Flint, in East Chicago, in Wilmington, North Carolina, and beyond. So, what are the residents of Flint doing on the 4-year anniversary today? Let's take a look. As my computer loads very slowly. Here we go. Residents rally on the 4-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis. It's been 4 years since the city of Flint switched to using the Flint River as its water source under state orders. A whole series of events from the vehicle city to the nation's capital took place on Wednesday to remember this anniversary. This part is very important because remember, as I've reported, this was under state orders from an unelected emergency manager. So as the media continues to hyperventilate on the great threat of attacks on our so-called democracy by Russian agents and Russian trolls, well, an unelected bureaucrat, which was serving as the proxy for Governor Rick Snyder, he made the decision through Governor Rick Snyder to switch Flint's water. Because, hey, they're poor black people, poor white people. Let's just roll the dice, see what happens. And we know what happened. On Wednesday, member of Flint H2O Justice Coalition rallied in Lansing. Lansing's the capital of Michigan. They want the state to supply free bottled water for mistrustful residents and pay their water bills. The rally began at 10 a.m. at Lansing City Hall and was followed by a rally at Flint City Hall at 3 p.m. Quote, Governor Snyder was dismissive of Flint's residents' ongoing concerns about water safety and suggested that they just get over it, said Claudia Perkins, Flint resident. By the way, that's not an exaggeration from that resident. As I reported, I think it was last week, in a meeting the governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, had with the mayor of Flint, Karen Weaver, he literally told her, and I quote, get over it, in shutting down the water pods where residents, mostly poor people, Flint is 45% poverty level, would go for the last few years to get free bottled water. All of them have been shut down. As I showed you, the lines were wrapped around the blocks to get free water as it was about to get closed down the next day. The activists marched from outside the Capitol building all the way to the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. They carried a symbolic casket to represent lives that may have been lost due to unsafe water. Some Flint City Council members showed their support and demanded action as well. Quote, fighting for what is definitely right. Fighting for what is definitely right. 4 years, way too long. Time for us to see some action on this. All the pipes have not yet been replaced. It was a shame only saw the governor take away the bottled water for people that are relying on this, said Santino Guerrera, Flint City Councilman. Quote, the water is still not safe. Still saying high lead levels in homes and schools. Bacteria is an issue, and people just don't trust it, said Eva Worthing, council member. The groups made their way back to Flint City Hall to make sure local governments know they have a hand in the crisis too. Until the lead service lines are replaced, filters and bottled water still must be available to all Flint residents. I just want to say, in fairness, when you say local governments need to be held accountable, the Flint mayor actually has fought for those water pods to be kept open. I don't think she's perfect in other areas in this crisis, but as far as the water pods being open, she has been on the record. She actually called Governor Snyder, quote, callous for closing down the water pods. So on this, Karen Weaver is on point. But I think what's so important about this whole thing, let's keep it real, folks. Do you think if what happened in Flint happened where I live, I'm on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, do you think if it happened on the Lower East Side of Manhattan 4 years later, there would still be doubt about whether the water was safe or not? Do you think if it happened on the Lower East Side of Manhattan 4 years later, all the lead service pipes would not have been replaced in this area? Do you think if it happened on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, by the way, New York City is the largest city in the United States. It's got some of the wealthiest people in the world live here. Do you think if it happened here 4 years later, they would have closed down free water pods? I have an answer for you. There wouldn't be any water pods to begin with because they would deliver the water home to home. This is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And I will continue reporting on this, hopefully not 5 years later, hopefully not 6 years later, because the federal government, the state government, and the local government have failed the people of Flint. And you want to know why? Michael Moore said it best a couple weeks ago at a town hall Bernie Sanders did. The people of Flint, they don't have lobbyists, and they don't have the money to buy off their politicians. It's as simple as that. So what do you do about this? We keep it in the news. Because when you keep it in the news and you keep covering it, you don't allow the poisoning of American citizens to be normalized. We cannot allow the poisoning of American citizens and then the cover-up after by this governor, Rick Snyder, who frankly should be in prison for involuntary manslaughter or at the least criminal negligence. He was the governor when this happened. And it later came out, although the corporate media didn't cover it, he perjured himself in front of Congress. He lied about when he first even heard about the threat of Legionella, a deadly bacteria in Flint. Lied in front of Congress. But if you're wealthy in this country, if you're a well-connected governor, if your top donors are mother frackers, fracking aficionados, then you get a get-out-of-jail-free card. And you want to know how we together can help stop this? It's right behind me. You don't stop environmental genocide if you don't have cameras in these communities. You don't stop environmental racism if you don't have microphones in these communities. You don't stop god-awful privatization attempts, because this was a privatization attempt gone awfully wrong. You don't stop it unless you have aggressive journalists in communities, not after the water is switched, before the water is switched, demanding answers and demanding explanations, demanding evidence that it's safe, and demanding accountability. We're not going to stop Flint. We're not going to stop East Chicago. We're not going to stop Wilmington, North Carolina. We're not going to stop Massachusetts, which has now water contamination I've reported on, and all the other areas I've reported on. You're not going to stop it reporting from our apartments or our homes. It's great that I could do this, and I have an audience that wants to watch me even when I'm not in the field. But how you do this is when you get in the field, when you get microphones in the face of public officials. When you make those videos get out there to more people to wake the masses up. For example, when I was at the Young Turks, I did a town hall in a church in Flint. I believe 135,000 people watched on Facebook. Do you know what the predominant comment was in that live chat under the video? They thought this was fixed. They had no idea. Why do they think it's fixed? Because it must be fixed. CNN's not talking about it. The New York Times doesn't write about it anymore. This is why we need a media revolution. This is why we need Status Quo. Status Quo is the network I'm trying to launch. I do have a very large vision. I do have reporters in mind to launch this with. I do have a camera person who I think you're going to like in mind to travel the country with me. I do have a business plan and structure in mind. I need funding to do it. I need funding. I'm not going to Flint so I could sit in a hotel hot tub and drink margaritas. I'm going to Flint. I'm going to East Chicago, and I'm going far beyond those places to expose environmental genocide, to expose corruption, and to give the voiceless back their voice. So I hope, for those of you who have subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have subscribed, think about it. 346 people are subscribed to the reporting Patreon. If each one of you got one family member or one friend to subscribe at $1 a month, at $2 a month, that helps us get even further, even closer to our goal of getting in the field and having the necessary equipment. By the way, it helps us in our goal of getting bigger funding from progressive sources. Progressive sources. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm staying on this story. A lot of people criticize me. Jordan, why don't you cover other things in Flint? I think I do cover other things in Flint. But the minute I stop talking about Flint, the minute you take the microphone and the camera off Flint, then the poisoning of American citizens is normalized. I'm not going to allow that to happen. Period. Onward. You ever hear of this guy named Bernie Sanders? He's this raggedy guy from Vermont. I think he's inspired a couple people over the last few years. And, you know, he puts forward, I'd say, very non-radical proposals. He puts forward proposals that back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s were kind of just like the mainstream of American politics. But after we held an auction for our public officials in the 1970s and 80s, all of a sudden, Bernie Sanders' policies were considered radical and socialist. No, what's radical is having a system based on legalized bribery. What's radical is having a system that prioritizes doing the bidding for your donors rather than doing the bidding for the citizens you were elected to represent. So Bernie Sanders now came out after last year, came forward with a very specific policy proposal to ensure Medicare for all citizens, which a lot of these Johnny-come-lately Democrats that suddenly want to run for president, they signed on, talking to you, Kamala Harris, talking to you, Cory Booker, talking to you, Kirsten Gillibrand. I digress. So Bernie is now coming forward with a plan to guarantee jobs to every single American who wants one. Something that is not radical, is kind of what a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt tried to do, and largely was successful in guaranteeing jobs, government jobs. So let me read you from the Washington Post. Hate to read from the Post, but this was the first one I found. Headline, Bernie Sanders to announce plan to guarantee every American a job. Senator Bernie Sanders will announce a plan for the federal government to guarantee a job paying $15 an hour with health benefits to every American worker, quote, who wants or need one. Embracing the kind of large-scale government works projects that Democrats have shied away from in recent decades. Sanders' jobs guarantee would fund hundreds of projects through the United States aimed at addressing priorities such as infrastructure, caregiving, the environment, education, and other goals. Under the job guarantee, every American would be entitled to a job under one of these projects or receive job training to be able to do so, according to an early draft of the proposal. Oh my God, what a fucking radical this man is, Bernie Sanders. What a radical lunatic. What a lunatic. Oh my God, Bernie Sanders, he wants to create jobs that will address infrastructure, caregiving, the environment, education. Oh my Lord, how are we gonna handle such a thing in America? A representative from Sanders' office said they had not yet done a cost estimate for the plan or decided how it would be funded, saying they were still crafting the proposal. Sanders joins two other rumored 2020 Democratic presidential contenders who have expressed support for the idea of a jobs guarantee. Jobs guarantee advocates say their plan would drive up wages by significantly increasing competition for workers, ensuring that corporations have to offer more generous salaries and benefits if they want to keep their employees from working for the government. Supporters say it would also reduce racial inequality because black workers face unemployment at about twice the rates of white workers, as well as gender inequality because many iterations of the plan call for the expansion of federal child care work. Both of those are very important. Let me start with the first part. Jobs guarantee advocates say their plan would drive up wages by significantly increasing competition for workers, ensuring that corporations have to offer more generous salaries. Hey, you know what else does that? Strong labor unions. Because back in the 50s and the 60s, the strong labor unions in this country forced non-union private companies to offer competitive salaries because they didn't want their workers to unionize. So they offered competitive salaries compared to what the union jobs were so that their workers would not try to unionize. It's the same exact system and mentality here. I also think, based on my reporting around the country, it was always insane to me when you hear these people talking about Bernie Sanders is racist and Bernie Sanders doesn't understand Black America and Bernie Sanders just doesn't understand what Black people go through. Hello, I do know that I'm a white person saying this. I do know I've never dealt with economic racism or racism in any form. But on the merits, every single one of Bernie Sanders' economic policies would disproportionately help Black and brown people in this country. That's a fact. Minimum wage increase disproportionately helps minorities. And it should. This hour would be life-changing for most workers making far less than that. Imagine if you're making $8.50 right now or less. I've met people making $7.25 in Alabama and other places. That's life-changing. So, of course, Bernie, this radical Bernie Sanders. Of course, Bernie, being the radical he is, this policy, oh, no, the establishment don't want the establishment can't handle it. You kidding me? Guaranteed government jobs? Fix the infrastructure? Fix the environment? Caregiving? Oh, my Lord, we can't take this. So, of course, corporate media is freaking out. Corporate media is freaking out. And, there's one guy, I don't know him, I've never tweeted with him, I've never talked to him, but he just gets on my nerves. His name is Kevin Drum. Kevin Drum. And he's a writer or a blogger, I don't really know, from Mother Jones. And he's got a real, kind of fetish and obsession with Bernie Sanders and progressives. And whenever a progressive poses something, he writes these awful things. He also did this piece basically saying, stop saying the water in Flint isn't clean based on no evidence that it is clean. I don't know why Mother Jones has this guy on board, but frankly, Mother Jones isn't exactly what Mother Jones was when I used to read it. Used to be pretty damn progressive. Now, not so much. But Kevin Drum of Mother Jones wrote in response to Bernie's proposal, here we go. As my computer continues to load. Need a job? Just call Bernie Sanders. Need a job? Just call Bernie. So right there, already, he's out of the gate. Totally belittling Bernie Sanders, totally condescending. Need a job? Just call Bernie. It drips of that establishment arrogance. So what's Kevin Drum's beef with Bernie Sanders trying to propose job guarantee? Let's do a little back-of-the-envelope arithmetic here. There are about 113 million full-time wage earners in America right now, and roughly a quarter of them make less than $15 an hour. Add in healthcare benefits, and you're up to a third of the labor force making less than they would under Bernie's plan. That's about 37 million people. Now toss in some part-time workers and some self-employed workers, and we're up to something in the order of 50 million people. I failed math in 11th grade, but I got to tell you something. I don't know where he's getting that roughly a quarter of them make less than $15 an hour. A lot more than a quarter of the United States makes less than $15 an hour because there's a huge underemployment problem in this country. So by Kevin Drum's math, hold on. Oh, God, why is my computer doing this? Hold on, folks. That's 50 million people who would be better off with a government-guaranteed job than with the job they have now. In other words, it's insane, and I really hope I don't have to explain why. Oh, you tell me why, Kevin Drum. Why is it that it's insane based on your mathematics? Since this is just a proposal, let's also suppose that Bernie is providing universal health care and a minimum wage of $15, which I know he supports. In that case, everyone with a job would be just as well off keeping it. However, there would still be millions who don't have a job and want one. and millions more who might not like their jobs and would prefer a government job that's a little cushier. How many is that? Maybe 5 million, 10 million, and probably more like 15 to 20 million during a recession. That's still pretty damn close to insane. It's about 3 to 10% of the labor force effectively nationalized forever by the federal government, which makes it roughly comparable to the emergency labor force employed for a few years by the WPA during the depths of the Depression. This is why even our lefty comrades in social democratic Europe don't guarantee jobs for everyone. It would cost a fortune. It would massively disrupt the private labor market. It would also certainly tank productivity. And it's unlikely in the extreme that the millions of workers in this program could ever be made fully competent at their jobs. But in the era of Donald Trump, where everything is so easy when you're holding a rally on the campaign trail, I suppose it will sell. Everything pitched at a third grade level seems to these days. So, sigh. Go ahead and take your shots, Bernie bros. Oh boy. Oh boy. Mr. Drum, he couldn't resist. Had to attack us Bernie bros. I assume there's some female people watching me right now, so it's kind of insensitive. If you're gonna call me a Bernie bro, you better start calling people Bernie gals too. I want equality, even in condescension. It's not just Bernie bros, we're Bernie gals too, right? So I don't even know where to start with how stupid his piece is. But before I tell you how stupid his piece is, let me tell you what Bernie Sanders' policy advisor had to say about this piece. His name's Warren Gunnels. Here's two tweets by Bernie Sanders' policy advisor, Warren Gunnels. K. Drum, I will defend your right to free speech to the death. But when you mock the call for a job guarantee, you are mocking the legacy of Mother Jones, a revolutionary working-class hero and co-founder of the IWW that wanted to abolish the profit system. See, I don't know anything about Mother Jones. I really don't. But Bernie Sanders' policy advisor, Warren Gunnels, is basically saying when you mock the call for a job guarantee with your dripping with condescension headline, you're basically attacking the roots of Mother Jones, which back in the day were very, very progressive. So he followed up with, it would be one thing for Kevin Drum to work at the neoliberal Times, meaning the New York Times, or the Incrementalist. Oh, I like that. Maybe get together with Bob Rubin, Larry Summers, and Alan Greenspan and join the committee to save the world daily. But please, don't tarnish Mother Jones and what she stood for any longer. Damn! Damn, Warren! Is that where Bernie gets his zest and zing from? I couldn't have said it better myself. So first of all, I mean, there's so many problems with this idiot, imbecile, Kevin Drum's piece. First of all, you're doing arithmetic and you're citing why it won't work before the senator has even put out the plan. Now, when he does put out the plan, you might not like how he calls to pay for it. I got an idea of how you pay for it. Cut the military of the United States, not just in half. Cut it 60%, 65%, 70%. You'll still be much safer than the 10 other countries that our military, the 10 other countries combined that our military budget dwarfs. Endo, Jordan, Patreon sign is hard to read. Don't tell Jen that. She worked for 45 minutes to an hour on it. I hope you could read it. We'll work on it. Maybe we'll do another one. Bernie Sanders hasn't even proposed his plan. It's announced that he's going to draft a bill to propose a job guarantee. And you know what? You know what? Kevin Drum, that piece might have been rewritten, might have been written by, that incrementalist, that progressive who likes to get things done, Hillary Clinton. How do you preemptively attack Bernie Sanders before he's even come out with the specifics? And by the way, when you say it's going to hurt the private workforce, the private labor market, there's this radical thing, Kevin. I don't know if you know how economics works, but if you give more and more people more and more money, guess what happens? They go spend that more and more money that they have in their wallets at other businesses. So it helps the labor market, including the private labor market. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Do they not understand how economics works? I think they do understand what economics works. The key is they don't want to threaten the free market. These neoliberals at Mother Jones, or as Bernie Sanders' policy advisor so eloquently said, the neoliberal times, which I like. I've never heard that before. And press this share button. Let's get it out to more people. It's kind of astounding to me that you have progressive media, progressive, air quotes, like Mother Jones coming out preemptively doing, I don't even know where the hell he got that math because it didn't even make sense the way he wrote it. They're attacking his plan before it's even out. And by the way, we've spent now it's $7 trillion. $7 trillion over the last 2 decades on war and bombing. I have a feeling that if you put those $7 trillion towards government jobs, again, here's how it works. Here's how it works. Sorry to use my Fuji and my paper towel as an example. Give employee Fuji a guaranteed job, more money in his pocket. Fuji walks all the way to the paper towel business to buy more paper towels. More paper towels bought. And when the paper towel store has more money, because Fuji has more water, so the Fuji guy goes to give more pay for more paper towels. Maybe he was slacking on paper towels because he didn't have the money to pay for them. Now he goes to buy more paper towels. Guess what? There's more money coming into the paper towel store, so that paper towel store is now going to buy, I don't know, a cell phone. Look at that. And then the cell phone store that's making more money goes to buy a nice wallet. Economics 101. You don't even have to go to college. You don't even have to go to college. And by the way, I have heard from some of you that Fiji water, I keep saying Fuji, it's Fiji. Apparently, Fiji water, which I drink because it's the safest water that I know of, I've done my research, they are starving or making Fiji die of thirst. So I'm going to look into that. Because there's not so many options with water that's safe. But I'll look into it. Oh, they're devastating the community. Maybe I'll go to Fiji, do a report on that. So, I mean, it's just astounding to me. Like, how stupid are these neoliberal corporate reporters? And how stupid do they think you are? Because you want to know something? It's not that we can't guarantee. It's not that we can't guarantee jobs to Americans. The problem is if we did that, then we can't guarantee war for the defense contractors. And we can't guarantee oil for the oligarchs. That's the real issue. It's not that we can't, it's that we won't. So let's stop pretending. Let's stop pretending that we can't guarantee healthcare or we can't guarantee jobs. And by the way, Bernie Sanders hasn't come out with his plan. Okay, but let's be clear. He's not, I don't believe what he's saying is a guaranteed job, even if you show up high and drunk and do needles in your arm in the office or totally suck at your job or are sleeping at your desk. I'm a progressive, but I'm not like a total crazy person. Obviously, you have to work for the money that you're getting. Obviously, you have to produce at your job. What he's talking about is guaranteeing employment. I'm sure there will be particulars and fine print that you're not guaranteed it no matter what, even if you stand on your decks naked peeing on other people. Not that not that I do that. Enough with Mother Jones and all these idiots. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. And you want to know what? If you want to send me to Fiji, I know how you could do it. It's right behind me. Let's see. Has anyone signed up for Patreon since I've been live? Don't make me reprimand you. Nope, nobody has. We'll see. See what happens. So that's the story with Bernie. Now, you know, moving on from one corporate doofus to, shall I say, a corporate liar. It pains me to have to discuss my friend Joy Reid. Joy Reid, you know, if she watches this, I know she's busy being a mega, you know, superstar at Comcast. But Joy Reid, you know, we had it out on Twitter. I think it was in 2016. When I expressed facts to her, she told me I was, what is it, mansplaining? I was mansplaining, and I'm a sexist. Bernie.
A Power Ranger.
Oh, she called me a Power Ranger. That's right, a Power Ranger. You know, I happen to like the Power Rangers. When I was younger, I prefer the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than a Power Ranger. So I'd rather be referred to as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I personally like was it Luigi or I don't know. I'm getting my Power Rangers versus Ninja Turtles confused. But Joy Reid, it came out years ago that on her old blog post before she was like one of these leading propagandists in MSNBC, back when she was just Joyanne Reid. She switched to Joy Reid. But back then she was Joyanne Reid. And by the way, full disclosure, I met her in person when I worked at MSNBC. Seemed like a very nice person back then. I met her in 2011, before she had a show and before she started, you know, doing propaganda for a living. So it came out in her blog post years ago, that she basically wrote very homophobic things. And when this came out, I believe it was last year, she acknowledged it. She acknowledged it and apologized. She said, I was insensitive back then, and this is not how I feel now. You know, I might not like her views, but I have to give her credit for that. You know, some people have made mistakes in the past. And now in this social media era, things are being found that people wrote or said years ago. And you either lie and cover it up, or you do what, you know, honest human beings say is, I hate what I wrote, I hate what I said. I had flawed and destructive thinking then, and I don't think that way anymore, and I apologize to anyone I offend. So that's what she said then. But now she's saying something very, very, very different. Very, very different. I hope this doesn't make me a Power Ranger for reporting on this. Because I don't want to be a Power Ranger. I want to be a journalist. So I'm going to read to you from Glenn Greenwald. I'm not going to read the whole piece because he wrote a super long piece for The Intercept. But here we go. In the last 24 hours, he wrote this yesterday, so, you know, it's not the last 24 hours. But the last 24 hours have changed the Joy Reid situation considerably. Last week, the same left-wing Twitter user, Jamie Maz, who first unearthed Reid's anti-gay tweets about Charlie Crist, the former Florida governor, unearthed far more toxic, bigoted, and vicious anti-gay articles that appeared to be from Reid's old blog. Reid has removed her blog from the internet, so Maz found the articles using the Wayback Machine, the Internet Digital Archive that stores old online content even after it's been removed or deleted by the publisher. And before I read on, I just want to totally be transparent on some things that I'm not proud of, that I wrote years ago. So if the Wayback Machine comes after me, I just want to be clear. I did offend some people years ago by saying Christmas is a knockoff holiday of Hanukkah, and that Jesus stole my religion. I'm sorry, I said it. I said Santa Claus ain't got nothing on Hanukkah Harry. I'm sure it's up somewhere on the Wayback Machine. It's not who I am anymore. Just want to be honest. But I'm just saying Jesus was a Jew. And the Jews did kill Jesus. So it's kind of both. But Hanukkah don't get enough love. It's all Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. And I have a problem with that. I digress. Somebody go to the Wayback Machine, find that, and attack me. Now, here we go.
G just became a patron.
G just became a patron. Thank you, G. G-Unit. Love it. Thank you, G, for your contribution. I hope other people follow. Get me to Fiji, get me to Flint, get me everywhere. And I have a reporter in mind to hire. I'd like to present that reporter to you when I have the funds to do so. Anyway, so, oh, I lost my train of thought. Here we go. So, Reid has removed her blog from the, but unlike the posts for which Reid apologized in December, which she said were intended to mock the hypocrisy of GOP officials who are simultaneously closeted gays, but also anti-gay in their policies, these newly discovered articles have nothing to do with Republican hypocrisy. They are just hateful, bigoted, and homophobic in their own right. Some of the lowlights, as Mediaite itemized, include defending former NBA star Tim Hardaway's aggressively anti-gay comments by writing that while such comments are stupid for a public figure to make, most straight people cringe at the sight of two men kissing. Apparently, she also wrote saying she couldn't go see Brokeback Mountain either, despite my sister's ringing endorsement, because I didn't want to watch the two male characters having sex. Does that make me homophobic? Probably. Woo! I never saw Brokeback Mountain, actually. I heard it was good. And honestly, if I'm telling you the truth, I was at a coffee shop 2 weeks ago, and there were these two women making out in the coffee shop. And I looked at them, and I couldn't take it anymore. But it wasn't because it was two women. I do not like seeing other people happy in love when I am not. I don't care if it's two, gay Martians making out. Love is love. Say, love whoever you want. Doesn't affect me. I believe in equality for all. Just want to throw that out there. But, so, hold on. So, she wrote, she didn't want to see Brokeback Mountain because maybe I don't want to watch two men making out. She argued that, quote, intrinsic to being straight is finding gay sex acts gross. She's defending Marine General Peter Pace after he condemned homosexual acts as immoral by suggesting his views are actually normal. She wrote opposing Harriet Mier's nomination to the Supreme Court by implying she is a closeted lesbian and comparing her lesbian haircut to those worn by the president of Now and Glad. I don't know what a lesbian haircut looks like. Promoting the ugliest and most destructive stereotype of gay men as pedophile predators by suggesting that anti-gay attitudes are based in, quote, concerns that adult gay men tend to be attracted to very young post-pubescent types, bringing them into the lifestyle in a way that many people consider to be immoral, and that gay rights groups seek to organize very young, impressionable teens who may have an inclination that they are gay. And I just want to make clear, even though I'm having too much fun right now, to be honest with you, these are things that Joy Reid says she did not write. So Glenn Greenwald is writing things that were written at her blog. Joy Reid is saying, I didn't write them. She then went on to say that her blog was actually hacked. Her blog was actually hacked. And the blog was changed. Those words weren't what she wrote. I'm just telling you what she's claiming. So I can't read this to you on the screen, but I'm going to read it to you. I was actually shocked. Credit where credit is due, because I didn't think this was going to get any corporate media coverage. New York Times, headline, Joy Reid blames hackers for anti-gay blog posts, but questions mount. Oh my God, can you imagine if, Jimmy Dore wrote that? You think the headline in the New York Times would be, but questions mount? They'd be calling for him to be deported out of the United States of America. But this is the New York Times. Back in December, after a series of homophobic posts on her defunct decade-old blog resurfaced on social media. The MSNBC host Reid apologized for them. But this week, when Reid was confronted with a new batch of homophobic writings from that same period, she said she had been the victim of hackers. I hope they weren't Russian hackers. That claim was called into question on Tuesday when the Internet Archive, the meticulous online record-keeping nonprofit that hosted the archive version of her site, said it had found no evidence to support her claim. Ms. Reid did not respond to a request for comment on Tuesday. Now, I want to be clear about something. And I know some of you aren't going to like this, but I have to be fair. And I'm probably more sensitive to this because I had real bad defamation perpetrated against me a couple months ago. And it does suck when untrue accusations hurl around the internet about you and they spread like wildfire, and people don't take the time to actually investigate whether they're true or not. They just kind of, what's that thing when you kind of, just jump on a bandwagon. So if Joy Reid, it is very ballsy, excuse my French, because obviously she's a woman. It is very ballsy if she indeed was not hacked to come out with a statement. She came out with a statement using like a cybersecurity expert to give like forensic explanations why she indeed was hacked and these weren't her words. If it comes out that she's lying, your career's over. What do they say? It's not always the crime, it's the cover-up. I mean, if Joy Reid came out again and just said, listen, as I said in December, I apologize for these abhorrent comments. Back in 2009 or whenever they were made, I was wrong. I had really, really destructive way of thinking. I don't know for sure, but I think she is a practicing Christian. I could be wrong about that. People would attack her, but at least she's acknowledging what she said. At least she's taking accountability, and the cards would fall where they fall. That's about Joy Reid, or that's about anybody else. MSNBC, NBC would either take action against her or they wouldn't. I doubt they would. But she's now like, you better be telling the truth. You better be telling the truth. Because if you're not, how are you going to be an online anything, or a television host, if you're a proven liar? And she's a proven liar in terms of the propaganda she pushes out in defense of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic establishment and the corporate oligarchy. She lies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But that's on policy. Now we're talking about she might be lying about, did she actually write these homophobic things? Right? And I'm not a perfect person. I'm sure I've written tweets before that if I had to see them now, would probably take down. Or that I would say, God, I was a fucking idiot for writing that. But you have to admit when you're wrong. That's how you accumulate and acquire trust from viewers or friends or anyone. You have to just say, listen, I fucked up. I'm human. I don't feel this way anymore. That thinking was based on things my mother told me or my father told me or whatever. I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but from the responses to her coming out denying it and her providing like forensic expertise, people aren't buying what Joy Reid's selling, folks. Let me bring you. Here is Andrew. How do you pronounce that guy from CNN? Andrew Kaczynski from CNN. This is what he wrote. Internet Archive's post basically says there's no proof Reid's posts were the result of hacking or tampering, adding, Reid's claims regarding the point of manipulation is still unclear to us. And by the way, this is, the Wayback Machine, they call this. So the Wayback Machine, who was approached by Joy Reid's lawyers to take down the post citing she was hacked. I mean, what did they have in it to like pick a fight with Joy Reid? I'm sure if they found tampering or anything was distorted, I mean, my Wikipedia page has been tampered with. There are ways to find out if people have come in that are not you and tampered or hijacked your blog post and written all sorts of awful stuff. It's happened to me before. Wayback Machine, Internet Archive says, no. Sorry, Joy. I don't share your joy on this. Here's another one. This is from I don't know, at John Locke's Knife. Ooh, I hope I'm not supporting a killer. Joy Cyber Guy doesn't know the Wayback Machine captures posts at the time they were posted. Period. Only way his explanation works is time travel. It's where the reasoning is going. Plus, her tweets are still up, linking to those posts. How dumb does Joy think her audience is? I got an answer for you. She's a host at MSNBC, so pretty damn dumb. And I give forward. I totally come forward and say, I'm a hypocrite. I worked at MSNBC. I was dumb back then, too. So, in fairness to Joy Reid, I don't like Joy Reid. I've called her out on lies, on distortions she puts out on the internet for a living, on distortions she puts out on the TV for a living. I'm very, very for MSNBC and other outlets having more black hosts, having more brown hosts, having indigenous hosts. So I'm not attacking her based on race or gender or anything else. I'm attacking her. She's full of shit. And she is trying to keep establishment and corporate distortions and propaganda out there at the expense of progress in this country. So in fairness to her, I don't know for sure if she's lying or not. I don't know if she's lying. So I can only tell you what I think. I want to be very, very clear because it's not fair to her or anyone else to say without 100% certainty whether she's lying or not. I mean, I think she's kind of fudged it enough where she's put out this ridiculous statement. She or I think it was MSNBC hired this like cybersecurity expert to leave forensic evidence that she was hacked. It seems like they're sticking with this story. But based on her track record, I have reason to think she is lying. I also find it hard to believe without knowing exactly how the Wayback Machine works, looking into it just briefly. There's no reason that the Internet Archive would investigate it, and if there was evidence of tampering, not take the post down. But they did investigate it, and they said, from what we could see, and by the way, the New York Times referred to the Internet Archive as meticulous. Meticulous. That's not me saying it, that's the New York Times, who Joy Reid loves quoting. So, you know, listen, in the marketplace of ideas, whether it's digital media, whether it's TV media, I am all for criticizing Joy Reid on her policies, criticizing Joy Reid on the lies she tells. I could care less about her as a person. I could care less about her personally. I don't know her from a hole in the wall. But let me tell you something. I think she is lying. And I think it goes to show when even corporate media responds calling her out, you have a CNN reporter calling her out lying. You have the New York Times saying, this doesn't make sense. NBC and MSNBC aren't going to do anything because you want to know why? They're not in the business of truth. They're not in the business of facts. They attack progressives every day of the week. But when their journalists or reporter are exposed, well, nothing happens. I mean, for God's sakes, Chris Matthews wasn't disclosing that his wife running for Congress was taking donations from the entire Clinton empire. He didn't get in trouble. Come on. You want to see more reporting that exposes the corporate media in the field? Right behind me is how you make it happen. Now, this is going to be a bonus edition because I have a couple more stories. Do you want more stories or do you want me to go home? Tell me in the chat. Do you want more stories or do you want me to go take a bath? Because I have more stories. But I don't want to keep going if you're tired of me. I know Jen's tired of me, my business partner. My thing is freezing, so I can't even read the chat. What are they saying?
They haven't answered. Oh, stories about the bath? Corey says keep going.
Keep going. Well, if Corey says so.
They're
So-
currently speaking with Jerry. Everyone's.
Oh, by the way, Jerry, God bless him. I am not convinced. I don't know if Jerry's a troll or Jerry's in love with me. Speaking of gay. Because I like women, but I have no problem if Jerry likes me. I don't like him that way. But Jerry literally, I mean, I don't think he's missed any one of my live streams, whether I was at the Young Turks or now. He must have me notifications on at all times. It's all trolling and hateful things and mostly propaganda from the oil industry. But like, God, Jerry, at some point, are you going to subscribe to my Patreon or are you not? We can't have you here for free forever, Jerry.
The people say they're going to subscribe in his name.
Oh, please subscribe in his name. Now, I've been having a lot of fun today, but I have to report to you a story that's not fun and is deadly serious. I wish I was away at a bachelor party this weekend, so I wish I would have been able to get to this a few days ago. I find it absolutely disgusting that this isn't being covered in the corporate media, and there is not the indignant outrage that we saw at, Assad gassing his people, even though there's no evidence he did just gas his people. So, I hate to have to report it, but here we go. A wedding is hit by airstrike in Yemen, killing more than 20. This is a New York Times article. And by the way, the headline should be, Saudi Arabia, funded by the United States, kills 20 at a wedding in Yemen. This is disgusting. An airstrike on a wedding party carried out by the Saudi-led coalition waging war in Yemen, changed that to waging genocide in Yemen, killed more than 20 people and wounded dozens of others, including the groom, Yemeni officials said Monday. The strike hit an isolated village in northwestern Yemen where families had gathered to celebrate late Sunday. After the attack, people posted online what they said were survivors collecting mangled and charred bodies. One widely shared video showed a young boy clinging to the shirt of his dead father, crying, "No, no, no." Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other Arab countries, with support from Britain and the United States, have been bombing Yemen for more than 3 years to try to remove an Iranian-aligned rebel group known as the Houthis from the capital, Sana'a, and to restore the internationally recognized government. The civil war is part of a larger regional power struggle between the Sunni monarchy in Saudi Arabia and the Shiite rulers of Iran, and the Shiite ruler of Syria. Bashar al-Assad is a Shiite. The conflict has killed more than 10 million people, displaced millions, and caused what United Nations officials have called the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Yemen was the Arab world's poorest country before the war, and now it suffers from spreading poverty and a large outbreak of cholera. Officials from the Saudi-led coalition could not immediately be reached for comment about the airstrike. Oh, I'm sure they couldn't. But one told Reuters that it was taking the report very serious and would investigate. Oh, I'm sure I'm sure there's going to be an investigation. Oh, I'm sure. Just like, Barack Obama's CIA and FBI. Oh, they did so many investigations about all those drone strikes that killed innocent civilians all over the goddamn world. And then we ask, oh, why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? I mean, first of all, I don't want to hear from the Defense Secretary, General Mattis, or these other military people that have gone up and spoken at the microphone about how we take every precaution not to kill innocent civilians. No, you don't. And by the way, Saudi Arabia is bombing weddings with the United States weapons. The United States is the largest funder of Saudi Arabia's weapons and bombs. Why? Because we have an alliance with Saudi Arabia based on oil. Oil. And there is a genocide happening in Yemen that the United States of America is complicit in. Let me repeat. There's a genocide happening in Yemen that the United States is complicit in. So why is it that when news reports come out totally unverified that Bashar al-Assad gassed his people with chemical weapons, wall to wall on CNN, wall to wall on MSNBC, constant in the New York Times, constant in the Washington Post, constant in the Associated Press. But when the Saudi Arabia, funded by the United States, is committing war crimes and genocide on innocent, mostly innocent people in Yemen. Jen, have you heard about this on CNN or MSNBC?
No.
Say that louder.
No.
Jen's off to the side. She doesn't like coming on camera for some reason. Why is it this selective outrage? Maybe because CNN and Comcast and the New York Times and the Washington Post. Oh, wait, we know the Washington Post ain't going to cover it the right way because the Washington Post has a $600 million contract with the CIA. You know what else they're about to get? Oh, not the Washington Post. Amazon has a $600 million contract with the CIA. Amazon owns the Washington Post. Amazon's about to get a $1 billion contract with the Pentagon. So don't expect much outrage that the United States is helping to fund genocide and war crimes on Yemen so that we could support our ally in Saudi Arabia, who is a war criminal himself. There was a great headline. I don't remember where it was, but saying that the Saudi prince might let women drive, but he's still a war criminal. We are funding Saudi Arabia to commit genocide for oil. They want to take down the Iranian leadership for one reason and one reason only, for oil. And that's how the United States CIA has operated for decades. I learned that largely thanks to Oliver Stone. Great documentary, The Untold History of the United States. Let me read you this story, which I agree with. The U.S. can't call itself an ethical nation while it continues to sell arms to Saudi Arabia. Once again, U.S.-made weapons sold to our great friend, Saudi Arabia, are raining down on innocent... Oh, God. Sorry, my computer's a little spastic today. Once again, U.S.-made weapons sold to our great friend, Saudi Arabia, are raining down on innocent men, women, and children in Yemen. How can we call ourselves an ethical, law-abiding nation when we continue to remain silent when such atrocities are being committed on a daily basis? We are complicit in the most heinous war crimes. Donald Trump, his enablers in Congress, and his supporters are guilty. Sorry to tell you, Independent, who wrote this started under Barack Obama. But yes, it's continuing under Donald Trump and getting worse. I shudder to think how they will explain their silence when they come face to face with their Creator. The feigned reverence for God and Jesus Christ is gross hypocrisy in light of our obsession for trade, profits, and lack of concern for innocent lives. At least 20 people died on Sunday when a Saudi-led coalition airstrike hit a wedding party in northern Yemen. Most of the dead were reportedly women and children who were gathered in one of the wedding party tents. The bride was among the dead. Medics and residents said more than 46 others, including 30 children, were also injured. The attack on the Yemeni wedding party was one of at least 3 airstrikes over the weekend that killed Yemeni civilians. A family of 5 died in an airstrike in the province of Hajjah, and 20 civilians died on Saturday when fighter jets bombed a bus near the city of Taiz. Please call the White House and demand an immediate halt to this madness. Yeah, well, you can call all you want. I don't think it's going to do much, unfortunately. You know, I started this live stream talking about today is a 4-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis, and that's barely getting any media coverage. We have poisoned American citizens who, to this day, 4 years later, still have no clean water. And that shows you at the total, utter disregard for people's lives in our country. But part of what America is a total disregard for human life in other countries. And I know I'm going to be attacked, oh, this anti-American. No, I'm not anti-American. The reason I say this is because I love America, and I want America to stand for what it portrays itself to stand for. Because it's not a shining democracy that the rest of the world envies. It's just not. We are an oligarchy that is going closer and closer to fascism. That's the truth. And as someone who is, I'm not practicing, I don't go to temple or anything, but I know Jewish history. I know the Holocaust. Well, maybe there's not gas chambers in Yemen, but innocent 10 million people have been killed. For what? For what reason other than oil, other than profit? And Barack Obama began the United States funding of this genocide. He won a Courage Award last year. A Courage Award. Donald Trump, it's not really Trump. It's Mattis. It's all the brainiacs that are basically pulling his strings. But yes, it's Trump. He's the president. All I could say is, what do you say? I don't know what to say. Sometimes you just got to be honest that there are no words. All I could do is report it and show you why it's wrong. Cindy Matthews, we're living in a corporatocracy. Certainly are. If that doesn't upset you enough, time to freak the fuck out. So, some of you might not like this. I've said it before. There was one thing that I was wrong on. Donald Trump is way worse than Hillary Clinton on the environment. Hillary Clinton was bad herself, but I don't think she would have appointed this idiot, dangerous man named Scott Pruitt to be EPA chief. He's rolled back clean air emission rules, clean car rules, clean water rules, clean everything. He's not interested. Scott Pruitt has met with more fossil fuel executives and business executives than actual environmental activists. Way more. But this is a new level, what he's doing now. It's totally new level. And let's press the share button. Let's get this out to more people. Scott Pruitt, I don't even, I wish I was making this up. Scott Pruitt wants to change. Oh, hold on. Let me get rid of these dancing people. Oh, I gotta let the dancing people dance? Hold on. All right, stop dancing. Okay, I think that will work. All right. Scott Pruitt wants to change how science is used for EPA regulations. And let me tell you something. As somebody who's been working on a piece about cooked up science, the science currently is already very questionable. Scott Pruitt, he wants to make it 10 times worse. You ready? In a move that could fundamentally reshape the way science supports environmental regulation, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt announced Tuesday he wants the agency to rely on the studies that are fully transparent. Oh boy. Quote, "The era of secret science at EPA is coming to an end," Pruitt said. "The ability to test, authenticate, and reproduce scientific findings is vital for the integrity of rulemaking process. Americans deserve to assess the legitimacy of the science underpinning EPA decisions that may impact their lives." Okay, sounds wonderful so far. The proposal was immediately announced by environmental activists, public health advocates, and Democratic lawmakers as a cynical and dangerous maneuver to slash long-established public health protections, because much of the data behind anti-pollution rules are individual health records that are privately protected. So basically, in English, what Scott Pruitt is trying to do, he's trying to make studies that are largely based on private health information banned. So a lot of studies are based on, data and research of sick people in places, or the effects of, air pollution or water pollution or whatever it is. And as this article states right here, the move is a dangerous maneuver to slash long-established public health protections because much of the data behind anti-pollution rules are individual health records that are privately protected. In Scott Pruitt's world, that's not being transparent, so he wants to get rid of it. Pruitt has earned the unabashed scorn of environmentalists and public health advocacy groups and praise from industry for the aggressive manner in which he is trying to undo a number of Obama-era regulations addressing water quality, clean air, and climate change. But the move to address secret science may be the most ambitious because of its potential scope. Limit the science that could be used as legal justification behind regulations, and you limit the regulations that can be approved. That right there, folks, is the intent. He's trying to limit the amount of regulations that can be approved. In announcing the proposed rule, the EPA said the change would also address the, quote, replication crisis, where a significant proportion of published research would be not deemed viable because it can't be reproduced. But that would mean long-term studies that, for example, follow the health of the children of poor women living in heavily polluted communities over decades could not be used in EPA rulemaking because replicating the research would be prohibitively expensive and cost lives by wasting valuable time. This is one of the more dangerous parts of the whole thing. Part of science is peer review. Part of science is if one person does a study, replicating it on the other end. So, there's human error and scientists aren't always right. And sometimes they do testing that's wrong or, was imperfect in some areas. So you want to replicate, other scientists and other researchers want to replicate it. According to Scott Pruitt, there's a replication crisis. Well, oh God. Sorry, folks. How stupid and corrupt this country sometimes wears me down. So, basically, Scott Pruitt he's trying to claim that he's doing this for more transparency so there's not like secret data being used for regulations. Well, most of the secret data is people's private health information. And there is no replication crisis. If anything, there's not enough studies being done to confirm other scientists' study. Oy vey, we're in trouble, folks. We're in trouble. So, take in the air now, drink the water now, because who knows what tomorrow will bring. Who knows? And please, please, please just press the share button. Got one more video for you. And if you haven't, I really, really hope you'll consider going to patreon.com/Jordan Charitable Reports. Contribute as low as $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month. Your contributions are going to get me back in the field. Your contributions are going to allow me to hire a cameraman. Your contributions are going to allow me a travel budget so I can get out in the field and I can stay in the field and cover as many things as possible. One more story. So, I don't really cover Trump administration stuff that much because I'd be like a broken record. I mean, there's enough people out there covering Trump and regurgitating the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over again. But there's an official in the Trump administration who, to his credit, basically just admitted, I'm a corrupt motherfucker. And that's how I do business. So it's very rare that politicians actually admit that they're corrupt and that they operate basically on bribery. So credit where credit is due. Now he's the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau now. Mick Mulvaney, I believe he was budget director too. Listen to what Mick Mulvaney actually said in public. This was not like a Goldman Sachs speech from Hillary Clinton. This was not like a blooper where he thought he was in private. He just said it out in the open, folks. Here we go. Mick Mulvaney, the interim director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, told banking industry executives on Tuesday that they should press lawmakers hard to pursue their agenda, and revealed that, as a congressman, he would meet only with lobbyists if they had contributed to his campaign. Quote, "We had a hierarchy in my office in Congress," Mr. Mulvaney, a former Republican lawmaker from South Carolina, told 1,300 bankers and lending industry officials at an American Bankers Association conference in Washington. Quote, "If you're a lobbyist who never gave us money, I didn't talk to you. If you're a lobbyist who gave us money, I might talk to you." At the top of the hierarchy, he added, were his constituents. If you came from back home and sat in my lobby, I talked to you without exception, regardless of the financial contributions. Oh, I'm sure he did, said Mick Mulvaney, who received nearly $63,000 from payday lenders for his congressional campaigns. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm crediting Mick Mulvaney for being so honest about his corruption. You don't see that every day. But this is what's wrong with the country. This is why you haven't gotten a raise probably in a long time. This is why you can't afford your health care. This is why you can't afford to send your kids to college. This is why you can't afford to pay off your student loan debt. This right here. I say it one more time. We had a hierarchy in my office in Congress, Mulvaney said, in front of bankers and lending officials. If you're a lobbyist who never gave us money, I didn't talk to you. If you're a lobbyist who gave us money, I might talk to you. I mean, what could you even say in response to that? He's admitting that he's not a public servant. He is a servant of lobbyists. Somebody said I need a news van. It's funny you say that because that's my dream, to get like a 1970s Winnebago, like slap status quo across it and go around the country and do like disappearing middle class tour. If only I had the money to do that. If only I had the money for a van. Does anybody know how I could get that money? Does anybody know how I could buy an RV? Oh, what's that on the screen? What's that on the screen? Oh. Is that my Patreon page? How would I have money to go out and expose people like Mick Mulvaney out in the field? Patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. $1 a month, $2 a month. How would I get that money for a RV? But don't keep saying it. Don't give me any ideas because I want that Winnebago. Endo said there are vans for $500. Do you want me to break down in Flint or East Chicago, Endo? What are you, crazy? Van for $500. I won't make it to the county line. Steady Drummer says, I had a 1974 Ford Fantastic. That sounds fantastic. Endo, just kidding. Endo, thank you for your loyalty, by the way. You're here every day. I appreciate it. Clash says, LMAO, $500. LMAO. So, Mick Mulvaney, let's see, in addition to openly speaking about that he's bought off from lobbyists, and obviously, you know, this is a man who works for President Trump. President Trump, as you know, what did he say on election night? The forgotten people will be forgotten no more? I mean, to me, the biggest lesson of Trump isn't that he's what do they call him, like a secret puppet for Russia and he's compromised? No, President Trump, Donald Trump, is the most successful con man in the United States of America's history. Frankly, he might be the most successful con man in world history. He's not a populist. He's not, you know, there for the forgotten man. He has people like Mick Mulvaney, who's openly saying, I spoke to you if you gave me money. And let's take a look at who gave him money, shall we? Here's Mr. Mulvaney's, the top industries he took money from in his campaign. All right, number one, retired, $418,000. What does that mean, retired? Okay. The insurance industry, $258,000. Ooh, insurance industry giving you money. You know who it makes up a lot of insurance industry people? Say it with me now. Health insurance. Securities investment, $241,000. That would be Wall Street. Commercial banks coming in at 202,000. And let me tell you, those weren't small mom and pop commercial banks giving him money. Leadership PACs, that would be super PACs. Real estate, 183,000. That would be fat cat developers gentrifying the United States of America. Republican conservative, who knows what that means? Health professionals, 148,000. That would be the pharmaceutical industry. Finance and credit companies, that's not exactly people trying to give you credit for your ice cream shop. Accountants, I don't want to criticize because many of them are Jewish and my brethren. Just keeping it real. And miscellaneous finance, whatever that means. I'm sure it means the mafia for all we know. So that's the top industries he took. Let's look at his top individual donors, shall we? Club for Growth. Oh my God, I'm so tired. Club for Growth, that bastion of progressivism, 88 grand. And by the way, he only was a congressman for a few years. Blue Cross Blue Shield, 44,000, that bastion of healthcare choice and freedom. No. Koch Industries. Who's Koch Industries? I've never heard of them. 35,000. Duke Energy. Oh, another big oil contributor at 33,000. American Bankers Association, 32 grand. Credit Union National Association, 30 grand. Oh, God, it doesn't end. Ernst & Young rounding out the top 10 at 25,000. So let's say Mick Mulvaney, not exactly a man of the little guy or gal. Not exactly a friend of the worker bee. Yet he's the interim chair of literally the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. These are the people leading our country. And by the way, this is just one person who openly said it. This is how the Barack Obama administration worked. This is how the Trump administration works. This is how the Bush administration worked. This is how the Clinton administration worked. This is how the Bush the Elder administration worked. I don't know. I think was he in intensive care?
Yeah, he's out.
All right, you know, Papa Bush was in intensive care and now he's out, thank God. Don't wish him death. My condolences on Barbara. Reagan administration worked. I mean, we're just swimming in corruption, folks. All we have is our voices and our internet and our Patreons. This is all we have as a people. I'll continue exposing it. And you know, Mulvaney is just the tip of the iceberg. And there's a big problem because there's so many state and local officials that are getting away with just abhorrent corruption that never gets called out because there's no corporate media nationally or local media. Think about your local media where you live. Are they exactly calling out your local representatives or your congressmen or your senators and going to their opensecrets.org page and pointing out to you this is who you're voting for? Or pointing out who they're having fundraisers with? I don't think so. As I end today, a few public service announcements. And Jen's going to be mad at me for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have to be honest and I have to keep it real. And I always get her a little worried when I say that because she doesn't know what's about to come out of my mouth, but it's usually okay. I'm on Steemit, but I don't understand Steemit. I'm just keeping it real. I just don't get how it works. I am a millennial. I'm an older millennial, and I don't understand how this cryptocurrency works. I'd like to understand how the cryptocurrency works. When I hear blockchain, I feel like going to Blockheads, which is a Mexican restaurant here in Manhattan. I don't get it, and I want to get it. Because it could be a profitable area that helps us get funding to get back in the field. I see Lee Camp using it. I see others using it. And they're making money per post. So if anyone that's not crazy, because I don't want kooky crazy people messaging me, but if you're not crazy, if you want to email me if you understand how Steemit works. Please, if you could explain it for dummies, I'm a dummy. Email Jordan@protonmail.com. Email Jordan@protonmail.com. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. So please send in your explanations of Steemit. Jen's also going to be mad for me, but I will say we are looking for professional help, which means if you are interested on maybe teaching us something about Steemit or helping with certain things, you can email us with your resume, to be part of the revolution. We will vet you. If you're not exactly sane, we won't probably respond. I'm just keeping it real. A lot of kooky people out there. So email Jordan@protonmail.com. You have to send your resume. You know, you can't message me saying, I want to take over your Steemit page if your resume says you worked at, Mom and Bob's ice cream store. Nothing against them.
100% volunteer, very closely vetted.
100% volunteer at this point, very closely vetted. Jen,
Send your social links.
send your social media links. Send what you got. And we're not going to end without Jen coming on camera. Come over here.
Definitely.
Get over here. The people are demanding to see you.
They'll see you next time.
Come here. Come on.
I really
Stop it. Come on. Come on. We're going to bring Jen on. Sit in the chair. Sit in the chair, young lady.
How do you even see yourself?
Hold on. Let's pick up the stream here. So
I know it's true.
here we go. Now, Jen, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How hard is it to launch a media network fully?
Hi everyone.
Fully
Oh, you
based.
can't see it.
Fully.
The chair's warm.
How do you? Yes, I farted
Hi
a few
everyone.
times. How do you launch a media network, a grassroots revolution?
Oh look, my eyes look cute. Thank you for saying I have pretty eyes, but they look like crazy eyes right now.
How do you launch a media revolution with multiple reporters, cameraman, travel budget, equipment you need? How do we do that?
I mean, we need funding by the people. We're not going to accept any corporate donations, only progressive. And we want you guys. We want to be, you are the people we're going to answer to. So that's it. Put on his eyeglasses. I don't need to. Yes, Nicholas.
I have another
Hi.
question. Who killed President Kennedy?
The CIA. It was definitely the CIA.
Elaborate.
I mean, Jordan has not gone in depth into this rabbit hole. I have about 20 Kennedy books. I'm a big conspiracy theorist on the Kennedy side. Also, he was at the end of his life, made some changes, and he was cutting down on, the corruption, and then he died. Twinkle eyes, thank you.
Did Anderson Cooper, who interned at the CIA, have anything to do with it?
Anderson is definitely, he did not kill Kennedy, but he's definitely a CIA plant, for sure.
Wow. And last question for those at home that might be interested in knowing, on a scale of 1 to 10, how awful is it working with me?
Jordan is actually, I don't want to say too many nice things, but he's actually really nice to work with. He's a nice person.
Wait. You mean I'm not an egomaniac narcissist?
Yeah, the internet does have, some portions of the internet have this idea of who Jordan is, and that's not what he is or who he is. He's a good guy. And he truly talks all the time about wanting to go out in the field, and that's what he wants to do. Thank you, Corey. Corey, you're so funny. I love your comments in the chat. He really wants to get back to Flint. It's literally all he talks about. So when he pitches the Patreon, that's why. It's truly he wants to go out. He really cares about the stories. Blink twice if I need help. I don't, Zachary. I'm all good. Yeah, he's not deplorable.
Wonderful. Lastly, if people...
It's very bright, these lights. You guys should not have convinced them to get... They're hot.
By the way,
bright.
Last question. Should we get rid of this sign or keep it? Who made the sign and why should we keep it?
The sign, I was told today, well, not told, I was asked nicely to make a sign because his got wrinkled and he was sad about it. So I made the sign. I worked very hard. You're right, the red is hard to see.
Get rid of it. Wow.
Oh, Milan, that's just so.
But she gave it a.
It seemed, you know,
she gave a heart with it.
The comments, like I think it's like 70% liked my sign, and the other 30% did not like my sign. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
And I have one.
I know a printed one would be better.
And I have one other
Thank
question.
you, THC Gamer. Oh, I thought you were off at your dad's birthday. Happy birthday to THC Gamer's dad.
And I have a question. One more question. Just confirm or deny. Are you dating Jerry Ross?
Jerry, I talked to Jerry on Facebook, and every time I talk to him, I ask, can we interview you? I have so many questions for you. So today on the chat, he said, yeah, if we come to North Dakota, we can interview Jerry.
Jerry, are you ready? If I go to North Dakota to interview Jerry, they're going to be DAPL agents waiting in his living room to slaughter me.
I want to get to the bottom of Jerry. He's very dedicated.
He's a DAPL agent.
I know, but I want to know. I want to know why. I want to know how much he's getting paid. Oh, you called your dad. You're good. Son or daughter, I don't know, THC Gamer, whatever you are. No, business partners. Jerry, yeah, he ran away.
Yep. What are you going to do?
Thank you, Christine. It is nice by hand. Okay, that's all. It is nice to meet all of you.
Wonderful.
Goodbye.
With that, I bid adieu. But I do ask you for a few things. Number one more time. If you haven't yet, I really hope you'll consider supporting me at Patreon. Once again, this is not just for me. It's to build this network. We're at 346 patrons right now. We got to get up to 500. We got to get up to 1,000. We got to do it quick. This country is falling apart. The people are suffering, and we need cameras and a microphone to expose this level of insanity going on. Number two, I hope you'll start tuning in to other faces on this channel. We're posting videos from a reporter named Teresa Joy. We're going to have other people guest contribute on this channel as we go. I'm trying to build something that's much bigger than me because, believe it or not, I'm not the only one that's an aggressive reporter who wants to shine a spotlight on corruption and injustice. So definitely check out Teresa's videos. She's going to be live once or twice a week, so don't think she's some stranger. I'm trying to put forth other people to tell you more stories and expose more corruption and more injustice and more threats to your health and happiness. Thank you. Patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. By the way, if you didn't know, Jen will put it in there. I have two Patreons. Not just the reporting Patreon behind me, but I'm writing a book and releasing it chapter by chapter online. I just released chapter 7 2 days ago of my book, Corporate Con Job. So the book, that's the book Patreon. We're high tech here. Patreon.com/Jordan Chariton. That's how you get the book. And chapter 7, I think, I don't want to speak of it because I don't want to like compliment my work, but like I think chapter 7, if you read it, and Jen edited it, Standing Rock, the rise of fascism in America. I hope it will blow your mind because I bet you there is a lot that you don't know happened at Standing Rock that you will learn from my book. It's the same exact as my reporting. You could subscribe at $1, $2, $5. I don't know the specific levels. The only difference is the reporting Patreon is monthly, and the book Patreon is per chapter. So the book, you get charged the amount every time a chapter is released, whereas the reporting, it's just once a month charge. Totally understand if you can't do both. There are quite a lot of people who have done both, and I can't thank those people enough. Between the book Patreon and the reporting Patreon, we have like 740, I believe, paid subscribers. And we want to get that up as high as possible because the more subscribers we get on Patreon, the better chance we have to get larger funding from people who are interested in funding us, seeing, wow, they have all these paid subscribers. This is a business that could take off because they already have a baseline of support, and it's only going to grow once we get into the field. So thank you so much for your support, and I hope a lot of you will read that chapter. Again, patreon.com/Jordan Chariton. That's for the book, Jordan Chariton. For the reporting, add reports. Thanks so much. Have a good day, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.